Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Things That Matter with me, Marty McNabb. So, if you've been following along for a while, you know that I love the stories of the things that we surround ourselves with, we adorn ourselves with, the things that matter, the things we keep, and the things we'll leave behind. It's sort of like I get invited in at my live show and tell events, and both virtual and in person. And on these shows, I get invited into people's personal museum, their homes, their offices, their pocketbooks, their backpacks, their storage units, their attics. I get invited into people's individual human museums. And I personally find it fascinating. I think I even got more fascinated with the idea when I had to go online during COVID and everything had to be done on Zoom. We were all in the room together, but behind us were all kinds of things. And if you're watching, you can see my guest has a whole bunch of things behind her. So, and I do too in my mom's basement. So, anyway, this is a fascination of mine. And if you're following along, more than likely you're kind of curious about it too. So, thank you for joining us for this episode. And as I usually do, I want to let you know how I met my guest today. So Jeanette and I ended up meeting on LinkedIn, and I, although we didn't connect directly on LinkedIn, she was floating around. You know, my friends who are in the end of life community, like they're all floating around. Well, people in the pro aging and anti-ageist field, like float around there, and they all kind of seem to eventually know each other. So I think that's how we ended up. Like, I just kept on seeing my friends in that field, intergenerational connections, pro-aging, anti-ageist stuff. I just kept on seeing Jeanette's information in her posts and my friends connecting and engaging with them because they were very engaging. There's very important healing messages that Jeanette put out. And I just started doing the same thing, connecting and commenting and engaging with her posts. And then it was like, it took a little while to finally reach out and say, hey, I think that we need to connect a little bit more and find out a bit more about one another. And we did that a little while ago. And she was excited to be a guest today. So I am not, this is the show and tell section of this podcast and YouTube show. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Jeanette. And once you have it, take it away.
Thank you so much, Marty. I appreciate the opportunity. I love the premise of your podcast. Things that matter. Things do matter to us. Words matter. Our actions matter, and the things that we have around us matter. So I really appreciate the opportunity to share. So, well, I guess the way I can introduce the thing that I brought, which actually is normally on the shelf behind me, in the little space behind me, but I've taken it down so I can hold it to show you. I'm 73 years old. I always believe that we should not only say our age, admit our age, but declare it. So, but 40 years ago, I was living in New York City. I'm a born and raised native New Yorker. And my best friend who lived in Arizona sent me for Christmas a gift that was a little Chinese vase. And she mailed it to me. She packed it up with bubble wrap, and it was as careful as she could be. But when the gift got to me for Christmas, it was in pieces. It was in pieces. But I mean, I appreciated the gift so much. She had a lot of thought behind it and everything. This is the vase. I'm going to hold it up. But what I did was, I kept it in its box with its pieces. And then on New Year's Eve that year, I don't exactly remember what year it was, but it was 40 years ago. I decided to spend New Year's Eve listening to music and putting the vase back together. I don't know if you could see the cracks. I'll hold it up to the light, but you might see some cracks in it and everything. So I spent that entire New Year's Eve putting this vase together. So the important part of this object is not, of course, it's the object. She thought of me, and I was really, thrilled by the object. But what it represents to me is a process. And it was a real lesson for me about putting my life together. Because at the time, I was also going through some stuff. And, and so it was the process of repairing something that really mattered to me. And so that's why this thing matters to me. When I look at it, I don't actually see the object, I see the process. I see the process of repairing. And that to me is one of the chief, impulses of my life. I love teaching. I love teaching about aging and about all kinds of things. But I think each of us has the ability to repair something in this world. And I think right now we need a lot of reparation and repairing to do. So that's why this object is so important to me, is because of the process of repairing. And about 10 years ago, I've been blogging about aging issues. And 10 years ago, I wrote on another New Year's Eve in 2014, as we were turning the calendar into 2015, I wrote about how we can revision aging. And I felt that there are 4 actions we do on a daily basis or a near daily basis in our lives that we're not even aware of. There are four processes we do. We can create something, we can maintain something, we can repair something, and we can let go of something. Those are 4 actions that we do. And if we think about our own lives, what have you done today that you have created? And it could be anything. You could have written a note to a friend. You could have created a thought in your mind about a new idea for something. What have you maintained? What are you keeping up and keeping going? Maybe you're exercising in the morning. You're doing certain things. What are you repairing? What are you fixing that needs fixing? And then finally, what are you letting go of something? So to me, it's the process of life that fascinates me, and that's why this vase means so much to me. It's a process. It represents a process.
Wow. So powerful. And as we were talking about before we jumped on this interview, this recording, I am particularly feeling that idea of the process of repairing.
Mm.
And interestingly enough, I think that there is a Japanese
Yes.
idea of, right? So I can't remember the Japanese
I
word
don't
for
remember the
it.
term either. I know what you're talking about though, that it's the fixing of something, and it's the imperfection in an item that can give it its value.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And it's sort of like you hear with doctors that talk about, like, when you break a bone and it repairs itself, it's actually stronger,
Mm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and I just love that. I love that. And it seems you're teaching, and the other work that you're going to talk about as well is is aligned with the repairing,
Mm-hmm.
without a
Right.
doubt.
Right.
So that is amazing. Um, we're going to I definitely want that blog post that you talked about as part of the show notes, but we'll get to the show notes in a minute. So, my follow-up question. I've told you that, and if you're listening along and watching, you probably know it as well. And that is, what would you like to have happen with this vase when you're dead and gone?
Well, I'm going to say something that's probably going to surprise you and listeners that are used to your various shows. Um, it really doesn't matter to me what happens to this vase. The legacy of this vase, I'm hoping, is this podcast. That people hear what I've talked about and apply that to their lives. So to me, I mean, this is a personal thing. Somebody else who sees this vase will not get the same message, will not get the same value from it that I do. So it doesn't matter to me what happens to this vase. What matters to me is the lesson that people can get from the discussion we've had about it. That would be my legacy that I would hope for.
That's awesome. That's awesome, Jeanette. So, and keep in mind that many of my guests have not necessarily talked about, giving it to a museum or giving it to the family or whatever. We've had some people on who had found objects, and but the other thing is that it may, if you ended up putting that into a thrift store or whatever, it may actually spark a memory for other people as
Right,
well, right? So
right,
it's like,
right.
found objects can be as meaningful, but I love the idea of the process of repairing. And I love those four things like create. So it's create, then
Maintain,
maintain, then repair,
repair, and then
and
let go.
let go. Wow. Yeah, very powerful. So definitely need that in the show notes. So, without further ado, speaking of show notes or the information about, I'm inviting you now to share with the watchers, the lookers, and listeners more about you and the work that you do and how they can find you and find out more about that. So the stage is yours.
Well, thank you for that opportunity too. I am the way I describe myself is I'm a social gerontologist and a community educator. I love teaching people. My mission, my calling, if you will, is to change people's minds about aging, because we get aging wrong, and there's so much that we need to get right about aging. So I love talking about it, giving presentations, giving keynotes, about the subject. And I've written a book. You can see the cover of it over there, or I can actually hold the book up and close up, called Aging Sideways: Changing Our Perspectives on Getting Older. They can reach me at my website, JeanetteLeardi.com. So if you see my name on the screen or in the show notes, it's just JeanetteLeardi.com. But my work is I will talk to anybody, anytime, anywhere, of any age about the aging process, because we're all aging. We're all aging from the time we're born. So let's understand what it is and not be afraid of it, and to accept it and to celebrate it. And there are some specific ways that I propose doing that, and people can find more about that if they go to my website, they'll see various blog posts that I've done and articles that I've done, and if they would like to purchase my book, they can do that too. So
Awesome. Okay. So, yes, yes, absolutely. Yes, purchase her book, and invite her to speak with your organization, or be a keynote or do workshops and things like that. And it was so funny that you say this, Jeanette, because can't remember where I was, but somebody like jokingly said, oh, something about my age. And I'm 66, by the way. And I
mhm.
love that idea that claim it, pronounce it,
Yes,
like put it out
yes,
there.
yes.
My mom just turned 88. My mom-in-law just turned 91.
Mm,
And they're both going concerns. So, and like we know, and there's a variety, and some are do well and are a going concern, and others need more help and more. We're all different.
right.
But this guy ended up saying something, about it was like, oh, something about aging is tough, tougher. Made some, off your usual, not particularly ageist, but kind of like this questionable thing. And I said, you know what? I said, I see it as a privilege. And I said,
Mm,
I know way too many people who didn't have the opportunity to age as
mm,
much as I have been able to.
mm,
A lot of people who've been listening along here know that I lost over 25 people since the start of 2020.
wow.
And a lot of them were younger than me. And so, I just, sure, like yeah, I can't do what I did before. I can't pick up the same things. I can't do same move maybe or whatever. And maybe I have
Uh-huh.
little aches and pains here or something like that. It doesn't work like it did in my 20s or 30s, but I expect that, but I won't. I make sure that it's like, oh, just a little bit. And if there's a problem, I pursue like feeling better because it's not, you shouldn't just normalize, oh, you're getting older and therefore you're going to have all these aches and pains. That's not true because I know people much older that don't have, don't
Mhm.
have them. So it's questioning all of that. But I was just like, yeah, when he said that and he just kind of looked at me and he's like, yeah, you're right. You're right. So I'm just glad that we're having the conversation here. Obviously, we met through a lot of other wonderful people having this similar conversation out in the world. And no question what you were saying about the repairing of conversations about aging, the repairing about our our lives and our repairing of our humanity and our connections and the repairing of the division that benefits a few and hurts the rest of us.
Well, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned two things. One thing is, yes, we get older and our bodies change, and there are things that we need. There's a reality to getting older. But what I'd love to talk about are some of the assets that we gain that we get older that we couldn't have when we were in our 30s. And people don't know about that stuff. So there's a balance. There's the positives and negatives about getting older. But the other thing, and you mentioned the word privilege, aging is a privilege. I see aging as a privilege if you're talking about being lucky enough to survive. But I'm going to go a step further, and I've been thinking about this recently. Age to me is not only a privilege, but it's a right. We have the right to age. And that's when we think about what is society, the society around us. Does it help us? Does it support us in aging the way we want to age?
Yeah.
So when it comes to changing society, we should demand the right to age. So it's more than a privilege. It's a privilege plus a right. And that's my focus, is how we need to change society so that we have the ability to age, because there are a lot of social factors that affect not just our genetics, but it's what race we are, what gender we are, where we live, how much education we have, how much money we make. All of these social factors also affect how we age. So if we have a better environment to age, we will age. We have a better chance of having that privilege.
Yeah. And aging well. Yeah.
Right.
I love that we have a right. Everybody has a right.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a privilege and a right. That is I hadn't thought of it like that. So thank you for bringing that up. That makes so much sense because yeah, it doesn't seem like when you were saying, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's a right. Not certainly not in this country. I don't know if there's other countries that are, but not here. So you have to be productive here. Everything's about being productive. You
Well,
know,
the question is
what
the
does
way we
production
define
mean?
exactly how do we define productivity? If we're being defined as being as productive as we were middle age, well, that's not going to necessarily be the case. But again, if we understand the assets we gain as we get older, there's a different kind of productivity we can do only because we are older. Ways of mentoring, ways of problem solving that we didn't have when we were younger. So the productivity has to be redefined as according to how we have matured. And so these are the kinds of things that I like to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. I love it. I love it. So thank you. Thank you so much, Jeanette, for joining me today and sharing the story of that amazing vase or vase that talks about the importance of repairing. Um,
Thank you.
and
Thank you,
um,
Marty.
and it sounds like the important healing work that you're doing in the world has everything to do with repairing
Yes.
this break. And
Yes.
you get old, you're put out to pasture, you're not productive. It's like, wait a minute, who's saying that? Where's that coming from? And I truly appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank,
And
thank you
thank
for inviting me.
Yeah. So, and thank you everyone for looking and listening to this episode of Things That Matter with Marty McNabb. I would, there's a couple of things that I would encourage you to do. Is again, I usually do this, is again, you surround yourself with, you keep things, you buy things, you inherit things, you hold on to things, you adorn yourself with things all the time. We're not talking about none of this has to be of um, great monetary value. It's not about all your heirlooms. It's literally, what do you surround yourself with? If you're just listening to this right now, or watching this right now, look around where you are and think, why do I keep this thing? Why does it matter? And what story could it tell about you? So thank you very much again for listening to this episode of Things That Matter. And thanks, Jeanette.
Thank you.